Jacob, just graduated high school, going to Stanford in the fall. I guess things I like to do, video editing, sports, music, do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I saw your Insta. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's start with you got into Stanford, the most selective university in the world. When people hear that, like, what's the first assumption they make about you?
I would say like people think everybody at Stanford is like some sort of genius. I'll tell you,
Hmm.
I'll be the first person to tell you that that's not true because I'm not a genius. But like, okay, the impression people get is that there are super successful people that come out of Stanford, but you don't need to be. That is where you become super successful. Like you won't be super successful going in. Obviously, there are people like that going in, but that is the place that you go to become successful. So there are a lot of cracked people. I'm not cracked. I still got in. So the bar is lower than you think.
Okay. All right. Before we dive into your story, I have to ask, like, when you got that Stanford acceptance letter, what was your first thought?
Yeah, so I was actually at my basketball banquet. So after the season, we come together for like we eat, we have a meal together, and
Mm-hmm.
the Stanford letter came out at that time. I applied early and I got deferred, so
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for the regular decision, and it came out and like I was just I completely did not expect to get it because I thought I got deferred, so I was gonna get rejected.
Yeah.
So I opened that and I dropped my phone. First thing that happens is my friend grabs the phone to check the letter to see if it's real because he thought I was like faking it or something. And I thought it was fake. So it was just a lot of happy thoughts going on at that time. And the thing was, the day before was Ivy Day. Um, I got into Penn M&T,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was already sort of dead set on going there. And I told myself before I opened the letter, the only thing that would make me change my mind would be if Stanford became an option. So all of a sudden, I knew there was a decision to be made.
So, yeah, like, were you going to be studying at Stanford?
CS and econ.
Okay, then it's perfect. All right, so what kind of high school did you go to?
I went to Poolsville High School. It's a public school in
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, but it's a magnet program high school. I was in this science, math, and computer science program there. So it was just a lot of like engineering projects and coding projects and stuff like that.
Okay, like, is like, do a lot of people from that school get in to good unis, or is it like,
Um, yeah, I think we had like 17 Ivies this year or something like that. But historically, like Stanford is not great. I think we had one person last year, and then before that, like for like 5, 6 years, we didn't have anybody. And then this year we had three.
okay, that's good. All right, I gotta ask, like, when was the first time Stanford entered your mind as a possibility? Was it like always a dream, or
Um,
did it eventually become one?
I did not think about college applications like, at all until like August before senior year. So I think that was actually I was planning to EA to MIT, and I had written all my essays for MIT by like mid October. And then all of a sudden I see like a Instagram video saying that like you can only get into MIT if you win like some math Olympiad or something. I was like, okay, I suck at math. So I switched over to Stanford and then I told everybody that Stanford is my dream school.
Oh, okay, and then it worked out. So that's good.
Yeah.
You said you only started thinking about college applications senior for August.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how did you prep for like the for like everything before that?
I
And let me scope my question a little bit. I'm talking mainly like extracurriculars because I feel like by that time it's kind of
yeah, extracurriculars were pretty much set by that point. My number one extracurricular was I did research at University of Maryland
mm-hmm.
in aerospace engineering. I applied as an aerospace engineering major just because like a lot of my activities happened to line up with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I did research at the University of Maryland. My second extracurricular was I did something called a Conrad Challenge. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's
No.
like a innovation competition. You just come up with a product and you make a business model for it. And then so we were selected as finalists for that. So I put that as an extracurricular because it was basically a winter long project. I'm trying to think. Third activity, I started a model rocketry club in my school. We basically just built model rockets and we flew them. And then from then on, it just divulges into like those. It was only those three activities that were like aligned with my major. From there, it just divulges into a bunch of different stuff that I did. Like I played cello and I did taekwondo for 11 years each. So those were a big part of my application. Those were a lot of what my essays were based around. Um, because I had like a lot of awards in that, and like I took a lot of life lessons out of those. So that was really important to me. I like volunteered at some places. I did. Trying to think what else I did. I did like some advocacy stuff. I played basketball for my school. That's about it.
It's a very well-rounded extracurricular section, I would say. You got sports, music, academics as well. What do you think made the most, differentiated you the most in terms of Stanford applications with your activities?
I think so. I had this college counseling coach guy, and he told me a lot of people say don't be well rounded in your application because you want that like spike in your application. And my reasoning was why sell for one spike when you could have many spikes and you could just be, be. I think when people say don't be well rounded, they mean don't be mediocre at many things. But why
Totally.
don't you just try to be great at many things? So that was what I tried to highlight in my application. I think that's what made me stand out. Obviously, I had a head start because I started playing the cello and doing taekwondo at such an early age.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of other things that you can start in high school and be great at it. You can definitely put a lot of time into a lot of different things. You don't have to narrow yourself down to one thing just so you can have a spike. Just have multiple spikes.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Like, did you do any activities specifically to get into Stanford, or was it all just what you wanted to do?
I did some activities knowing that it would help with college applications, but I didn't like go out of my way to do something that I hated just because I thought it would get me into a good college. And I think that's like part of it because it, it if you put an extracurricular on your list and it's like one of your top extracurriculars and you don't talk about it at all in your essays, I feel like colleges sort of know that like you hated that thing. You only did it for college. You need to like demonstrate like a certain passion that you actually liked it.
That's all good advice. Last question before we wrap up the extracurricular section is that if someone is looking to get into Stanford and they only have like the high school years left, what would you suggest for them? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so there's this like whole suite of competitions. Like it includes like the Conrad Challenge, and then there's like Blue Diamond, and then like Ocean Challenge, Blue Ocean, or no, not. There's a Diamond Challenge, Blue Ocean Challenge, Conrad Challenge, and then a bunch of like other innovation challenges. Even DECA, you can do this for DECA as well. They all revolve around the same concept, which is build a product and build a business model around it. And that's like literally what Stanford is all about. West Coast, it's like all startup stuff. They throw millions of dollars at startups every year. Like tons of students drop out of Stanford to build their startup. The startup culture is insane over there. And what is a startup? You build a product, you build a business around it. So literally create one project and create a business model for it and submit that one project to like 5 or 6 different competitions. If you have a decent project, I guarantee you're going to qualify finalists for at least one of them, and it looks great on a college application.
Yeah, I also heard like there's like a MITES program at MIT that has been helping a lot of kids get into colleges as well. Like two of
Yeah,
the Harvard
heard about
interviews
that.
I got, both did the MITES program at MIT.
Yeah, I wanted to do that. It was too late for me though.
All right, let's talk about numbers. What were your stats that got you into Stanford? I'm talking GPA, test scores, the works.
I had a 4.0 GPA. I think it was like 4.93 weighted, 1870 SAT. I think it was 990 and 980 or 898, 790, 780 split. I don't know how I got 790 on math. Yeah. I took 10 APs and I got 9 5s and 1 4.
Damn. All right, and were you like the valedictorian or?
Not even close. In fact, in the science, math, and computer science program, I would say like one of the bottom ones there out of there's 60 students.
So, like, what do you think made your academics impressive enough for Stanford?
I think the way I see academics is it's a prerequisite, it's a baseline, so anybody can meet them as long as they like study. It's not anything special. As long as you get, to me, it's 1550 plus, 3.9 GPA plus, and then like a few APs. As long as you have that, like the rest is up to your extracurriculars.
Okay, bet. All right. And like you got like an amazing SAT score. How many times did you give SAT?
I took it once.
You took it once?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, what advice would you give to people who are just in high school going to take a SAT?
Yeah.
You get like a good grade.
Every single SAT tutoring service is a scam. Do not do those.
This is the second person who's telling me this.
They're so useless. I went to one. It was I don't want to say the name because I don't want to like defame them or anything. But I went to one and they gave me an SAT practice test that was harder than what an actual SAT was. I got like a 1400 on it, and then the lady who gave me the test was like, "Oh my goodness, you suck. Your SAT is terrible. You need to sign up with us so you can get that score up." And thankfully, I didn't do that. What I would say is literally just obviously it's harder now with the digital SAT. I definitely thought it was hard. I did terrible on the PSAT because it was digital. I took my SAT on paper and it was so much easier. But now it's digital SAT. There are tons of practice tests out there. Literally just spam practice tests and then redo the problems that you got the questions wrong and just repeat that process over and over again until you get a good score.
Perfect. And like that's the only thing that works, right?
Only
I feel
thing.
like that's what I did as well. A lot of people like
Exactly.
there's so much stuff revolving around the internet, and it's like fear mongering as well, right?
Exactly. Because everyone's trying to sell a course and
Yeah.
it
Totally
just
agree.
doesn't work.
Yeah. All right. Any last piece of advice for academics, AP, SAT, anything?
Okay, this is one thing my friend was saying, and he said I really like this word. It's called mid-maxing. Okay, you're not trying to max out your scores. You're trying to do what is necessary to maintain your 4.0 GPA or get a pretty good SAT score. But you don't have to go above and beyond for academics. Just mid-max. That's what I like to say.
Yeah, I think this takes a lot of pressure off high school students.
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's not that serious, to be honest.
Let's talk about your essays. So, what did you write your main essay about?
My personal statement, I wrote it about the cello, about music. Yeah.
Like, how would you say you differentiated yourself and I don't know, like portray authenticity when you're trying to impress so many admissions officers at these large?
I think a lot of people try to come up with like a fake story for their college essays, or like they try to get overly deep and dramatic in them. You need to, they know it's a high schooler writing it, and the high schooler is not going to write the next like great novel.
Yeah.
Just write what comes to your mind, and like obviously reiterate it and create lots of drafts. I think my personal statement was like my like sixth or seventh like draft. I had five ideas before that, and that was my sixth one. So I just wrote and wrote and wrote until I found something I was comfortable with. And obviously, I had like a guy helping me with my essays. So we worked together to find like the best topic for that, and then tell real stories about it that you can remember really well. You can't tell a story from when you were 3 years old and then tell it in an extremely vivid detail because you don't remember that from 3 years ago. And if you say that you remember in vivid detail, you're lying, and the college counselors know that. So tell a story from a couple years ago. The framework I chose was choose an extracurricular and tell a story about it
Yeah.
from a little bit ago, and just stick with that. So I think what I did was I talked about one time that I entered a cello competition and I received feedback that I was too rigid with, like I wasn't like expressive enough for the music. So I went overboard with being too expressive with the music, and I said I like let go of all structure in my life, and I basically like stopped being like I stopped having a structure to my life. I've stopped being rigid. I just let everything be free and it basically followed my heart. And then I entered that same competition the next year, and I got advice that you're being too expressive and you're not rigid enough. The final lesson was like, you need to find a balance between like expressive emotions and rigid structure, and then talked about how that could apply to like other areas of my life.
Okay, you said you scrapped like 7 drafts before that.
Yeah, a lot of drafts. Yeah.
What made you think like this was the one?
I think first of all is like a lesson that can be applied to other areas of your life. Like colleges love that kind of stuff, interdisciplinary sort of stuff. Especially Stanford, it's a liberal arts college. You're applying as a STEM major to a liberal arts college. Like you got to show that you're interdisciplinary somehow. A lot of my essays before were like one dimensional. It focused on one aspect of my life. Like this built my discipline or this built my motivation. Like everybody's writing about that. Not everybody is writing about a gray area between discipline and emotion and how that applies to other areas of your life.
Any last advice for someone who's looking to try to write this personal statement and like they're stuck at like a blank screen?
Write lots of drafts. Obviously, everyone tells you that. Read it again. Read each of your drafts again after 2 days. Like you could write something and think it's a masterpiece, and then read it again after 48 hours, and then realize that like you're being an idiot and it sucks. because when you're writing it, you have an inherent bias towards yourself. When you read it again 2 days later, it's like maybe this isn't as good as I thought it was. Okay, and then obviously have other people read it, not your like sort of friends who are going to be trying to be nice, but your close friends who like give you honest feedback, and then your family, they might try to be nice, depends on who you ask. So know who you're asking. Some people just like to hate just to hate as well, so they might tell you your draft is trash when it's fine. I think investing in a college essay help coach is pretty helpful because they have that objective opinion at all times, and they have so much experience reading other people's essays, and they know what is a successful essay. I think that's where you get a college coach, not for SAT counseling, not for extracurricular help, only essays. It's good to have an essay coach. I think specifically for coming up with your idea, there are different frameworks you can go with. You can choose many different extracurriculars and assemble them into one like essay, or you could choose one extracurricular and then talk about how that affects your other ones. So you decide on one of those two.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really helpful for high school kids. Let's talk about supplemental essays. Which one, I guess, made you stare at the blank screen the longest?
The Stanford roommate essay was terrible for me. I hated it. We were talking about the Stanford roommate essay.
Yep.
It asks you to introduce yourself to your future roommate, and I think that it's the essays that don't have one of the normal structures, like one of the why us essays or like why this major essays. It's a pretty unique prompt as well as a very general prompt. The super specific prompts are easy, you just answer the question. This one you have so much creative freedom to go with, it's almost like you have too many ideas going on and you try to fit it all into one, but you only have 250 words, so you got to make every single word count. The way I eventually settled on was, okay, one lesson that I learned writing supplemental essays is everyone says like be yourself. Like don't do that. Don't be yourself, because your personality, there's a very low chance that your inherent born personality matches what a college is looking for. So instead create like it has to sort of be like yourself, but create some sort of persona that you believe is what a college would like. So I think I talked about this in one of my videos, but I created like they're a little bit quirky, but they also like are super passionate about something. So I talked about everything from like building model rockets in a room. I was like, if you like smell smoke coming or something, I might have like burned down the room or something. I talked about like doing like imaginary basketball moves around the dorm. Just like silly, like quirky stuff. Like I might not actually do it, but like I talk about it. So they think you have some sort of personality that's interesting to them. Versus if I just wrote about like what I actually do, what I would actually do in my dorm, like sit on my bed and like scroll on TikTok for 2 hours. They don't care about that. So you got to come up with some sort of story.
Yeah.
For these like tougher questions.
Ask like a follow-up question to this. You ever feel like you were making something sound more dramatic or impressive than it actually was?
Yeah.
Like in terms of extracurriculars.
Throughout the entire application, well, okay, that's a bit excessive. Some specific extracurriculars, some stories that I told in my essays, obviously they're a little bit dramatized, but that is what it takes, and I think colleges know that because everybody is doing it, so you gotta level the playing field somehow.
Like, was there anything real about you that you were like actually afraid to include?
Afraid to include.
Thought it might hurt your chances.
I wouldn't say so, because anything that you think is detrimental to yourself, the fact that you are now standing in this position where you think you have a shot at getting into a top 20, top 25 school means that you either overcame that or you worked around it. Like, let's say, for example, I was cut from my JV basketball team in 9th grade. Some people might see that as a flaw. I turned that into a story for one of my supplemental essays as like, I got cut from 9th grade basketball team, and then I got into the gym that following summer, made the team 10th grade, rode the bench for varsity 11th grade, and then became a starter in 12th grade. So it was sort of like a success story that you can turn those into. And even if it's not actually a success story, you can say it's a success story. Like, make something up.
Yeah. I think this is all very helpful. I guess like another question would be like, how do you be like authentic while still trying to impress people?
Like I said in my personal statement story, that story was completely authentic. Everything about that was true. So you got to make your main points authentic. Like the little details, you mess around with little details. The main points have to be real and true to yourself, or else you can't actually write a good story about it. Like the stories that you tell have to be true, or else you can't give good details. It's extremely difficult, like when you're lying, to come up with a cohesive and comprehensive story because we're trained to be like realistic and and portray things in such a way that we would miss details if we were lying. So if you tell a real story, no matter how outlandish it is, if it's a real story, it will feel like a real story. If it's not, they'll know.
Yeah, right. I think this gives a lot of context. So basically, what you're trying to say is like you can improve, like you can exaggerate it a bit as long as it's real,
Yeah, exactly.
as long as it has substance.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about recommendation letters. How long would you say did you spend building relationships with your professors before asking?
Yeah, so I had um I had one recommendation from the professor that I studied under at University of Maryland for my internship. So that was about 3 or 4 months that I knew the guy. Talked to him like almost every day. Um, but I wasn't super close with him. I mostly asked him for his recommendation because of his prestige as a professor, and he was like a pretty distinguished guy, so I thought it would help. And then I followed the normal advice of having one humanities teacher and one STEM teacher for your recommendations. I wouldn't say I went out of my way specifically to ask these people for recommendation or like butter them up or like build a relation or like an artificial sort of relationship with them in an attempt to get a good recommendation out of them. There are some teachers that you just click with and some that you don't. My English teacher, for example, she was like, we had a pretty rough start to the school year, and then as time went on, like we eventually built a pretty good like natural relationship. Again, like I told you, like I hadn't started thinking about college applications until the August before senior year. So that entire junior year, I was like pretty authentic, and I wasn't like going out of my way to like try and build some fake relationship with her just to get a recommendation out of it. And that's like a little bit immoral too. Like you are faking, you are putting on a persona in front of somebody who's trying to help you just so you can get something out of them. So I think you just need a sort of, it's cliche to say be yourself, but if a teacher likes your personality, and it's even better if they know your real personality and they can write about that in your recommendations, then it's better to do that than to like be fake in their class and try to like force something out of them just because you want to get into a good college. And I guess another thing I would say is if this situation applies to you, do it. If not, then don't, because it's a pretty niche situation. But if you act like a certain way in some classes and acting a different way in others, then I would say like ask those teachers, like for example, my English class, I had a lot of friends in that class. So I was like pretty talkative in that class. I was like I took on a lot of leadership roles and like group projects and stuff. So I asked my English teacher for a recommendation, hoping that she would talk about my leadership capabilities, my social capabilities. I think for my STEM recommendation, I think I asked my math teacher, and I was like a pretty studious kid in that class, and I was pretty quiet in that class, mostly because the class was like hard for me, so I had to study a lot and actually had to lock in and pay attention. But like those are like two different sides of me that those teachers saw, and each of them have a different light of me, and they can write about that in recommendations. And it's sort of like a contrast, like, oh, this guy can lock in and study, or he can take control of a group project and be a sociable guy.
Okay, and like, did you give your teachers like a brag sheet or an information packet to help them write?
I offered it if they wanted it, but they said no.
I think this is it. Would you have any last pieces of advice for people looking to apply to somewhere like Stanford?
I would say if you are a freshman or sophomore, like don't worry about it. Just actively seek out things that you enjoy doing, because having stuff that you actually do, for one, actually makes your high school experience more enjoyable, and for two, like college maxing is what a lot of my friends say. Doing activities just to put it on your college application is kind of stupid in my opinion. It will make your life miserable. Identify what you like to do and actually do stuff that you enjoy doing. Like one of my friends, one of his activities on his Common App was that he was like top 100 in the world in Brawl Stars or something. So you can put anything on there. If you're in ninth or 10th grade, just do whatever you like. If you're in junior year and you're like actually you realize that you're cooked or something, like okay, do some competitions that you might not like. But ninth and 10th grade, enjoy your life. And then when you're writing your essays, like I would say number one thing is prioritize your mental and physical health, because that is an extremely stressful season of your life. So a certain amount of time to writing your college essays, I allotted 2 hours a day to writing and editing them. Outside of that allotted time, do not touch your college essays, or else you're going to fall into a rabbit hole of writing your essays for 8, 9 hours, and you're just going to kill your brain. You're going to burn out before you can even submit the essays. So I think having a schedule and a routine during that time is super important.
Thank you so much for your time. I think
Yeah,
this
of
is
course. Thank you. Yeah.
immensely helpful for high school students.